In one of my last videos, Canadians were banned from the NHL. Watch that here. So with that, all of the Canadian players created the CNHL, the Canadian National Hockey League. So the CNHL holds a draft to replace all non-Canadian players teams lost. Players who have dual citizenship will be determined by who they represent in international ice hockey tournaments. Also, all American NHL teams now have a CNHL counterpart. In the Pacific, we have the Canucks, Flames, Oilers, Sharks who become the Maple Syrup, Ducks who become the Mounties, Yotes who become the Bulls, and the Kings who become the Smarties. In the Central, we have the Jets, Avalanche who become the Nordiques, the Stars who become the House Hippos, the Predators who become the Otters, the Blues who become the Toronto 1967s, the Wild who become the Ketchup Chips, and the Blackhawks who are now the Highlanders. Now to the East and the Atlantic, where we have the Senators, Maple Leafs, Canadiens, and the Panthers who are now the Tim Hortons, the Lightning who are the Canadian Tires, the Sabres who become the Snakes, the Bruins who become the Hammerheads, and the Wings who are now some French word. In the Metro, we have the Pens becoming the Drakes, the Isles are now the Kings, the Flyers are the Kraft Dinners, the Hurricanes become the Loonies, the Devils are now the Ligers, the Rangers the Red Deer Blue Elk, the Capitals are now the Putin, and last, the Blue Jackets are now the Lumberjacks. Now I look at the teams. If you don't want to see the rosters, skip to 648. Starting off with the Jets, who stayed strong at center but are hurting on the wings. On defense, they have one new addition with Bergeron, but Myers should be a top defenseman now. In net, Hutchinson will be the starter. The Vancouver offense is hurting as they will be without the Swedish legends, the Sedins. Colton Gillies is the biggest addition on offense. The defense was mostly able to stay intact, with Goodbranson Tanev pairing being a fantastic shutdown pairing, and that longtime KHL goalie, Garnett, is the starter. The Toronto Maple Leafs offense will rely on veterans like Brooks Lake, Reading, and Lupul to revive their careers. On D, Morgan Riley is the only defenseman above 80, but the rest of the D is a bit underrated. In net, another longtime KHL goaltender is in with Jeff Glass. The Senators' offense pretty much completely stayed intact, not losing one major player. On defense, though, they lost their leader with Erik Karlsson being out. Hamburger Boy gets the start in net. The Habs saw their offense get destroyed, as now some tweeners will have to lead them. They still have Shea Weber on D, who is going to have to live up to his contract for this team to succeed. In net, a brick wall is in. Doing nothing but tank has helped the Oilers here, as now they have an elite offense led by Mick Jesus. On D, Chris Russell will lead a young Oilers defense. In goal, Cam is the starter. The final original Canadian team is the Flames, whose offense is led by Boring Monahan. With some decent depth on the wings, the defense is absolutely stacked, probably the best in the CNHL. Elliott gets the start in net. The House Hippos have an elite first line with Ben, Sagan, and Sharp. It does trail off after that, but the offense is still one of the most lethal in the league. On D, Old Man Hamuse and Jordy Ben will make a decent top pairing, but the rest is kind of shaky. In net, though, they are very weak. The 1967s have a pretty good offense. Centers could use some work. Defense is very strong with a great top two. In net, Allen gets the call. The Putin is an offense that lost Ovechkin, Baderstrom, Kuznetsov, TJ Sochi, and more, but they got Derek Roy. On D, Alsner is the only original Capital. There is a chance, though, Holtby could just lead them to a cup. The Snakes have some nice left wingers, and the top two centers are good. Offense is pretty solid all around. D is pretty above average. Could use some more offensive-minded D-men, though, but I don't believe they can overcome their situation in net. The Smarties have a very deep offense, but it's mostly filled with kind of grinders, two-way forwards, and more tough guy players instead of skill types. Defense is also strong aside from the bottom pairing. In net, KHL veteran Taylor is the starter. 2 Red Deer, where Rick Nash will have to lead a weak offense. The defense is pretty good, but in net, imagine going from the King Lundqvist to Pickard. The return of the Nordiques is official, with a strong offense led by Matt Duchene and one of the best defenses. Then 2 solid goaltenders. Now the Kings. Now the Kings have a really solid offense, a good mix of veterans and young players. Defense is also really strong. Scrivens gets the call in net. Canadian Tires have Steven Stamkos and not much else. Defense is above average for the CNHL, while their goaltending is not the best. The Otters have some nice center depth, but not much on the wings. Their defense is still strong, with the bottom pairing a bit weak. In net, Russ gets the start. The Mounties have a very good offense led by Getzlaf and Perry, with an above average defense that is lacking star power. In net, Bernier is the starter. The Ligers are the lucky winners of the Hall Larson trade now. Top 2 lines are very good. Defense could use some work, but I like it. Wedgwood is their starter. The Maple Syrup will have to rely on veterans to lead their team, and they got Danny Heatley back, who hopes to reclaim his scoring touch. The defense has 2 elite defensemen, and the rest is pretty decent too. They also have Jones in net, marked the Syrup as a cup favorite. The Lumberjacks give me mixed feelings. I'm not sure how I feel about the offense, defense, or goaltending. I would not pick them to win much. The Loonies have Skinner and Stahl, but after that their offense doesn't have really anything. On defense, current free agents Cohen and Stewart will lead the weak D, and net Cam Ward will have to play like an elite goaltender for the Loonies to do good. The catch-up chips probably have the worst offense in the CNHL. The defense is much better, and in net they are good with Dubnyk. The Kraft Dinners, their offense is one of the best. Defense is also very good, but could be better. They need a game changer there. Steve Mason is now one of the best goaltenders in the CNHL. Now to the Hammerheads, who have great center depth but are weak on the wings. Defense is good but shaky. Subban will have to play to his potential for the Hammerheads to go far. The Highlanders are going to have to rely on Johnny Taves a lot. They did get some nice KHL players, but I don't like this offense. Defense has 3 big names, but the other 3 are garbage. Corey Crawford is still the starter. Hard to say how they will do, just a very inconsistent lineup. Now to some French word, who have decent center depth, I guess, but horrible wings. Mike Green and Brendan Smith will lead the average D. In net, they have nothing though. I don't see the franchise playoff streak continuing. Now the Delta Drakes. Sid, the 30-year-old kid, is still there and will probably resurrect Boys' career, but the Penguins need more from the rest of the team. I would give the defense an A+, while Fleury and Murray are the best duo in the league. Now to the Tim Hortons, who have an average offense. Centers need some help for sure. Defense is at the top of the league for sure, while Lou should easily lead this team to the playoffs in net. Last but not least, the Brampton Bulls, who have young great talent. Offense could use some help though. Defense is the same way, some nice young talent but needs help. In net, if Smith plays like at least an average starter, then the Yotes are in line for a playoff trip. In the Pacific, the Flames would take the division, followed by the Oilers and Syrup. The Mounties and Canucks would also take wildcard spots. Bulls and Smarties fail to make the playoffs. In the Central, the Nordiques would win the division. Jets and House Hippos taking the 2 division spots. The Otters, 67s, Ketchup Chips, and Highlanders are out. In the East, the Atlantic would be won by the Tim Hortons, who would also take the President's Trophy. They would be followed by the Canadiens and the Senators. The Canadian Tires and Snakes would also take wildcard spots, while the Hammerheads, some Frenchword, and the Leafs are out. In the Metro, the Drakes are your division winners, followed by the Kings and Kraft Dinners. The Loonies, Ligers, Elk, Putin, and Lumberjacks are all done. In the playoffs, we have the Jets versus the Hippos, Nordiques versus Mounties, Oilers taking on Syrup, Canucks versus Flames. In the East, Kings versus Kraft Dinners, Drakes versus Canadian Tires, Sens versus Habs, and Tim Hortons versus Snakes. The Hippos would move past the Jets in 7. The Nordiques and Mounties would also go to 7 games, where the Nordiques would advance. The third series would also go to 7 games as the Syrup advanced past the Oilers. Flames would eliminate the Canucks in 6. To the East, where the Kraft Dinners move past the Kings in 6, Drakes and Tires would also go to 6, where the Drakes would move on. It only took 5 games for the Sens to move past Price and the Habs. Tim Hortons would also only take 5 games to move past the Snakes. So, round 2 is the Nordiques versus the Hippos and Flames versus the Syrup, Drakes versus Kraft Dinners, and the Sens versus Tim Hortons. The Nordiques would dispatch the Hippos in 5 games, the Syrup would fight to the end but lose to the Flames in 7, the Kraft Dinners would hold on after doing what Meek couldn't, they take out the Drakes in 6. The Sens would easily move past the Tim Hortons, sweeping them. Conference finals now, the Flames versus the Nordiques, and the Sens versus the Kraft Dinners. The Nordiques would cruise past the Flames, only taking 5 games. The Kraft Dinners would also only need 5 games to eliminate the Senators. The Cup finals now, the Kraft Dinners versus the Nordiques. In the end, the Nordiques are your Stanley Cup champions, defeating the Kraft Dinners in 7 games. Sidney Crosby and Claude Giroux would be tied for the first in goals, both having 52. Jumbo Joe, Shen, and Shea Weber would all be tied for most assists with a nice amount of 69. Claude Giroux would lead the league in points with 102, a few other players just short of the 100 mark. Price would lead the league in wins with 46. Luongo gets the save percentage title due to Murray playing less than 30 games. Some other notable stats include former NHL goal leader Chichu reviving his long-dead career with 40 goals and a 69-point season. Danny Heatley also revived his career, not 1507, but 50 points in 17. Tyson Barrie would lead the Nordiques in points with 78. Former Kings prospect and current KHL All-Star Justin Alzvito would put up 70 points to lead the Smarties. Defensemen would lead the Habs, as Shea Weber would lead the Habs in points with 84, and KHL All-Star Lee would be second with 75 points, including a ridiculous 35 goals from the blue line. And last, Morgan Riley would lead the Leafs in points with 78. Your award winners are Claude Giroux, who takes the Art Ross, Hart, Lady Byng, and Ted Lindsay. Then the Richard Trophy is shared by Crosby and Giroux. Shea Weber, who takes the Norris. Dylan Strome, who takes the Calder. Iginla, who takes the Conn Smythe. Luongo, who takes the Vezina and Jennings. Simone Dupre, who takes the Bill Masterson. And Patrice Bergeron, who takes the Selke. So for a Canadian team to actually win a cup, you just need to make the whole league consist of Canadian teams. Thanks for watching, everybody. Follow my new Twitter at TheIgloTWP. It'll be a Twitter where all my YouTube updates will be. Well, Dishonored Duck will be more of a personal Twitter. Also, follow my Instagram, like me on Facebook, check out the subreddit, the best place to submit video ideas. Also, thanks to Gregerson Gaines for the idea. Check out my last video where I did Brothers versus Brothers. Thanks for watching, and bye. 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 Man, this video will make me look even more racist to the people who think I hate Canada.